Good everyone, and welcome to the Energy Brief with Peter, where we dissect energy sector related issues and give you the latest updates in the energy sector. Today we are discussing the nuclear reactor that just started up in Georgia, US. Why this is crucial to the energy sector after 7 years. The Vogtle Unit 3 nuclear power reactor has safely reached initial criticality. This is a milestone towards full commercial operations expected later this year in what will be the first new nuclear reactor in the United States starting activity since 2016. Also, this nuclear reactor will be fully in service in May or June 2023. This was announced by Georgia Power on Monday. What does this mean? This is what we'll be discussing in this video. In this video, we're discussing what this development means, what are the risks of nuclear disasters, what is the significance of this development to the clean energy sector, and then is nuclear energy the best clean energy source compared to wind and solar? If so, why hasn't it been widely adopted like wind and solar? Also, we'll discuss the other unit power plant reactors that are available and when they will be started up and when they will begin operations. We also discuss the details and the idiosyncrasies that concerns nuclear energy in particular. So follow me closely and watch to the end. What does the Vogtle Unit 3 nuclear power reactor starting means? It means that the Unit 3 reactor has begun to fulfill its purpose, which is starting a nuclear reaction inside the nuclear reactor. Remember, the last time this was recorded was with Unit 2 reactor in 2016, when the Tennessee Valley Authority started splitting atoms as the Watts Bar Unit 2 reactor in Tennessee. This is technically called initial criticality. Initial criticality is where the process of nuclear fission starts splitting atoms that generate it. The heat generated is in the nuclear reactor then causes water to boil, and the resulting steam spins a turbine that is connected to a generator that creates electricity. So, in a nutshell, that's how nuclear generation or nuclear power, creates electricity. So, why is this significant? Why is this development significant at all? Nuclear power has over the years witnessed a lot of setbacks, financial, fictional, political, and actual setbacks. These details will be discussed later in this video. But the reason why this is significant more is the fact that the United States is the fourth country with the largest uranium reserve in the world. Uranium is the radioactive material used in nuclear energy production. There are currently 93 nuclear reactors operating in the United States, and collectively, they generate 20% of the electricity in the country. According to 22 data provided by the US Energy Information Administration, the amount of electricity that is generated from nuclear energy is equivalent to the amount of energy that is generated from all other forms of renewable energy, solar, wind, and hydropower combined. So, this means nuclear energy generates half of the clean carbon-free electricity generated in the US. An additional unit of nuclear reactor would then mean that nuclear power generates more than half of the clean energy generated in the US, making it the dominant clean energy source in the US. Georgia Power says Unit 3 reactor, this new Unit 3 reactor, could begin commercial operation in May or June. This is significant to residents of Georgia because it reduces air pollution and it reduces their carbon footprint in general. However, this also means increased electricity rates for households, and this will be explained later in this video. Another significance which I would like you to take note of is the fact that nuclear energy is generated without releasing carbon dioxide emissions, which cause global warming. This new development helps US to achieve its ambitions to run on zero carbon electricity by 2035. The increased sense of urgency right now in achieving various climate targets may see more funding go to supporting nuclear power generation. In all, this means any realistic plan to reduce reliance on fossil fuels or greenhouse gas emissions requires increased use of nuclear energy. Now, does this pose any risk of nuclear disasters? When people hear nuclear energy, what comes to mind is nuclear weapons. The perceived connection between nuclear power and war, explosions, radiations is firmly embedded in the mind of the public already. And truthfully, nuclear power or nuclear energy was conceived in secrecy, born of war, and first revealed to the world in horror. But nuclear power plants are quite different. An incident, one of the nuclear power accidents which happened is the 3 Mile Island accident. It was the most serious in US commercial power plant operating history, even though it led to no death or injuries to workers and nearby communities. The radioactivity released as a result of that accident was almost entirely confined within the reinforced concrete containment structure. All nuclear power plants now have built-in safety systems designed to successfully trap radioactive materials in the event of meltdown or accident. Also, many expert studies have revealed that there is low probability of severe harms in the event of accidents. Nonetheless, nonetheless, in order to mitigate safety-related incidents, nuclear power operators and plant operators need to improve inspections to prevent such events. The regulation of nuclear energy in the United States is done or conducted by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. This leads to a more pertinent question. So, who needs wind and solar? If nuclear energy is the most efficient form of clean energy, why hasn't it been widely adopted like wind and solar? First, this is simply because oppositions to nuclear energy have been largely successful with stiffening regulations, lawsuits, and organized protests. It appears that rather nuclear energy is the point where environmentalists and climate scientists disagree. Climate scientists argue that nuclear energy is the only feasible way of meeting humanity's growing need for energy, while also solving climate change, which is the most important purpose of adopting clean energy. Meanwhile, environmentalists are more concerned about the increased radioactive waste disposal and possibility of nuclear accidents and nuclear terrorism. We shall make this clearer and address this now. Nuclear power is a more efficient source of energy compared to wind and solar combined. Why? The intermittence rather of wind and solar is their biggest barrier now, coupled with inadequate battery storage systems. The wind does not always blow, so does the sun. So the sun doesn't always shine too. Meanwhile, nuclear energy is abundant. Nuclear is naturally stored and concentrated. So it has by far the most potential rather as an alternative to fossil fuels. So considering these benefits nuclear energy brings to the table, it appears that the opposition against its wide adoption is calculated. Also, the barrier to nuclear power can be seen in the high cost of building nuclear reactors. This new reactor, Unit 3, was supposed to start generating electricity in 2016, but the construction was plagued by cost overruns and delays. The high cost is transferred to customers in terms of increase in electricity rate. It is reported that Georgia Power's 2.7 million customers are already paying part of the financing cost, and state regulators have approved a monthly rate increase of $3.70 a month as soon as the third unit begins generating power. The elected Georgia Public Service Commission will then decide later who pays for the remainder of the cost. So the point being made here is that the costs and delays that is associated with nuclear power plants discourage utility companies from building nuclear plants. However, you realize that despite the fact that solar and wind have been proven to be unreliable, billions of dollars still go into funding them. If nuclear energy had only half of the attention the global community, the international community invests in solar and wind, it will become more cost efficient than conventional renewables, making it affordable for households to pay for it. So, on the other hand, concerning the danger of nuclear energy that riles up environmentalists, the radioactive effects of nuclear power plants have been largely exaggerated. This is what happens when people who have little knowledge about nuclear science start forming popular opinions or forcing popular opinions on people. Radioactivity below a certain threshold is not harmful. Humans and other elements even emit radioactivity. In the Three Miles Island accident and the Fukushima accident, radiation occurred, but it wasn't enough to kill or injure anyone. The perceived effects of nuclear energy have been blown out of proportion even when it is obvious that its benefits outweigh the side effects. With safety technology being used right now, the issue of nuclear radioactivity is largely mitigated. So, Unit 4 and projections. Unit 2 of the nuclear power plant's reactor that was started up this week Unit 2 of the nuclear power plants was started in 2016. Then the Unit 3 that was started this week would begin commercial operations in May or June this year. There's, however, a Unit 4. Unit 4 of the nuclear reactor is projected to begin commercial operations sometime between this November and March 2024. Construction of further nuclear power plants is, however, frustrated by production costs, cheap natural gas, and the deregulated energy markets in some states. Even in the international setting right now, natural gas has been hinted as the transitional fuel to renewables. Even though natural gas is still a form of fossil fuel, natural gas is cheap, so it makes people prefer natural gas against nuclear energy. But overall, nuclear power generation is a pillar of the Biden administration's ambition to have America run on zero carbon electricity by 2035. Imagine a world of nuclear power ships and airplanes. Imagine the commercialization of nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion now is like the god mode of nuclear fission. Remember, we have nuclear fusion, we have nuclear fission. If you find it difficult to distinguish between nuclear fission and nuclear fusion, just watch one of my videos which I made, which explains it in detail. So, energy source like nuclear energy brings heightened productivity, empowerment, and increased reliability, which are largely absent in solar and wind. So, in conclusion, big congratulations to the President of Georgia and to the world in general, because this brings us closer to solving climate change and energy access challenges. Don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button to access more energy related content and be abreast of updates in energy sector. This is the Energy Brief with Peter, where you get the most reliable and interesting energy sector information. See you later. Thank you.